Coast to Coast CFL edition. Bobby's out there in BC. I'm in the other side of the coast here, Nova Scotia. Coast to Coast CFL edition, week number 19 of the CFL. We've been going since week 2, and well, it's been a roller coaster, Bobby. It's really been a roller coaster. We could stay all day to talk about bad beats, but most people don't really want to hear about the past. But how are you feeling as we approach week 19?
Well, as good as I can be with, I'm on a 0-5 heater here. This is the kind of thing that a lot of people don't like talking about when they're on it, but I don't think I'm misreading things. Like some of the, like, you don't want to get into that Stamps loss, but I'll tell you, I was at the game and nobody in that stadium thought BC was going to win, let alone cover.
Yeah.
I think maybe my worst read was the Elks game, which ended up only losing by 1, but that was mostly to do with coaching decisions, keeping the Elks in the game, and pretty much giving them a chance to win. So coaching problems all over the place as usual, and Riders almost got burned pretty good this last weekend. It was a lot closer than it should have been.
Yeah, I feel like I've been making some good reads too. I think that, and then the disappointing thing is a couple games that I like that I left off my card, that come through. So, um, we've got some ground to make up a little bit here, but I think that the next few weeks we're going to make some noise, and going into the playoffs, I think you and I will be on a lot of the same page, and we can make some money leading into the conference finals, and of course into the Grey Cup. But here we are, obviously deep into the season. We got 4 games this week, of course, to look at. We have a Friday game, 2 Saturday, and then one on Monday taking place. So Argos, Bombers, Elks, Stamps, Lions, Riders, Red Blacks, Alouettes. You and I have taken some time to look at futures over the past few weeks. You did a great job of talking about the most outstanding player market. Is there anything before we jump into the games this week that you wanted to mention as far as the futures are concerned?
Well, most outstanding players looking pretty good. We've got some Milligan tickets at 90-1. We've got Brady Oliveira 60-1. Apparently he's the favorite, but there's no lines this week. And I've been looking because I'd like to put some money down on Cody Fajardo just to do the GRP wins, corner of the market, have the best position in the country. I already think I have the best position in the country, but that Cody Fajardo is standing out like Joe Flacco was last season. So books have been slow to put him up this week. Hopefully they'll get back up before the end of the year. There's 2 weeks left in the season. Yeah, that's basically what I'm waiting for there. And then your Riders are still 11-1 to win the Grey Cup on FanDuel. And if you look at the odds this week, they're favored against BC. If they win that, they're hosting the Western semifinals. So they'll likely be favored there. They need to go on the road in Winnipeg. That's really the only question. And then they'll probably be close to a pick if they make the Grey Cup, and it'll probably be like a quarter Rider fans, just like it is when they play the Lions. Rider fans will travel. Rider fans will travel, especially when Lions fans are unloading their Grey Cup tickets if their team's not in it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Can you explain the difference between the Riders' future odds right now and the Lions? It's a head scratcher if you look at it right now, and you and I, of course, are not happy about not let alone covering. But I know you're a ticket holder, but I mean the BC Lions, they covered the game, and we thought they might not have even won that game over this past weekend. But is there that big of a gap right now in this league between the Riders and the Lions?
No, the Lions number still doesn't make sense. It hasn't made sense all year. I don't know what yet. Like I see them around 4 or 5-1, maybe down to 3-1 in some spots. It makes no sense. They're going to be dogs on the road going to Saskatchewan, just like they are this week. So you're asking them to win this week first. Win if they don't win this week, to win on the road in the first round of the playoffs. Go to Winnipeg, win on the road, and then beat Montreal in the Grey Cup. So they're all going to be pretty close to pick, maybe a field goal either way on those games. But 3-1, 4-1, 5-1 isn't isn't a very good payout. You're better off just taking it game by game, especially if they're the third seed in the West.
Let's jump into the games for this week. We'll start things off with Argos Bombers. Obviously, two teams respected in their own divisions, and the home team rightfully favored by 3 in the hook. Total I'm seeing is 49, 49 and a half here. I always talk about October should be Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans' favorite month for them to be watching football because they always come alive. And in every sport, there's teams that come alive late in the season, slow starting teams, and then teams that get back into action again. That's the Bombers for you. And a lot of it to do with the guy that you're confident in to potentially win you some money, Oliveira. He's had a great, great year for that team. But I don't know. I kind of like getting road teams +3 in the hook. But this Toronto Argos team, Bobby, has been such an up and down roller coaster. It's really been a tale of just trying to figure out which team is going to show up. Am I far off with that? Am I being too harsh on them? It seems like they're a tale of two different teams sometimes.
Yeah, I don't have much on this game. Winnipeg is still dealing with some injuries at wide receiver. They've been dealing with injuries all year, so that's not really an excuse or not really a big factor in how this game shapes up. But they've been dealing with the injuries since the start. Saskatchewan's been dealing with injuries all year. Ottawa just started, and now everybody feels bad for Ottawa. They've got injuries. Well, come on, every other team's gone through them and handled them. So Winnipeg, you'd think the number would be bigger, but with all these injuries adding up and a wide receiver, real question now with Wilson, Dembski, and then you have Sean still out for who knows how long. Maybe they shouldn't be favored by that much. So maybe this number is kind of realistic. Toronto coming off the bye and they've been well, I wouldn't even say they've been. I think Chad Kelly's been fairly inconsistent since coming back. So he's shown to be pretty good in games, and then he's would blow up with 3-4 picks and give it right back to everybody. So I'm cautious to take a side here, not necessarily because of the teams. I'm high on both of them. I think we both are, but I think this line is where it should be. It seems low, but when you think it through, it kind of makes sense. Winnipeg, slightly better, maybe a couple points better than the Argos, and at a couple points for home field, they're gonna have another sellout there at what do they call it, Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah. 31, 55, 27, 26, 35, and 26. The points that the Bombers have put up in their last, what did I just read out? 6 games. They're putting up some numbers. You know, I started off the season by just talking every single week, just looking at some of the numbers and ATS wise or totals wise, looking at ones that stuck out, right? And the under is what stuck out for the Bombers for the first 10 weeks. 1-9 over under is how they started their season. And any game they were winning, it was low scoring. Any game they were losing, it was because they weren't scoring any points. Now they're putting up some points here. You get a rested Toronto team. Win or lose, this Toronto team does seem to be involved in high scoring games. In fact, when they do lose games, it seems like especially the games go over because Chad Kelly's seeing ghosts and he's passing the ball to the wrong team. Would not shock me to see the over hit. And you know what's funny I find here is that in sports like the NFL, when the season progresses, you actually start to see unders late in the game, late in the season. I find the opposite in the CFL. You know, in the playoffs, we might see some lower scoring games, but for some reason, I find that late in the season, it's kind of more shootouts. Maybe it's the film; they have more film to base on. I'm not quite sure what it is, but my lean on this game is actually the over. I think we could see some fireworks here in this one. And I feel like that we've got a lot of guys, a lot of athletes that can, you know, the yards after catch numbers are great for both these teams. You know, put the ball in someone's hand on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they can run for 30, 40 yards after the catch. And that's what you want to look for when you have an over. So that's my play. Kind of lean towards the over between these two teams. I love the numbers the Bombers have put up and also very minimal letdowns for them lately. I don't care who they've been playing. They've been playing the same brand of football. I know there's only 9 teams here, but I always respect that. I was just doing a hockey show talking about that, how important it is for some teams to be able to, no matter who they're playing, show up and play the same type of game. And I kind of feel like Winnipeg's been good at that lately. No matter if they're winning or they're losing, they play a full game. So that's it for me on that one. Stamps and Elks new quarterback signing. I'm not sure if we're going to see much going on in the next little while, but geez, Jake Mayer, I don't think he played himself into a new job. I think he played himself out of a starting job potentially last week. Um, Obviously, I'm not happy about that, but they find themselves picked now in this game at home. So that means they'd be dogs in Edmonton. What do you think?
Yeah, so this game in particular is kind of a it was kind of a benefit to delay this until 2 o'clock Pacific, just because both teams were having their first practice today. I was listening last night to Edmonton head coach Jarius Jackson. He thinks now that they're out of the playoffs, playing a meaningless game against another team that doesn't care. Now it's time for the mind games. We're not going to name a starter just yet. Well, today Trey Ford's back taking first team reps, so looks like he's going to be starting. I don't know if that's the right decision, but like he's on his final year. MBT is only there for a year so far, so even though he's been maybe their best player, at least most consistent player throughout the year, looks like they want to go see what Ford has. If they don't know by now, like I think he started 10 or 11 games now in the league. Last time we saw him, he was yanked. So there's nothing like too inspiring with that. I think it actually works towards Calgary. And even more concerning is Jarius Jackson's got Jarrett Dagey as the backup and has said he's going to get some playing time. And I don't know if there's anybody aside from maybe the coaching staff and the play-by-play guys. I don't know if there's anybody who's seen more of Jarrett Dagey live than me. I saw him play in Edmonton last year. I saw him a week later play in Ottawa. He's nothing special. I wouldn't be excited about having any money on Edmonton based on Trey Ford, knowing that Jarrett Dagey can kind of come in at any moment. Again, this is a meaningless game for both teams. So Calgary, much same situation. Jake Mayer appears to be on the bench for this week. So Matthew Schultz took first team reps. He looked okay in garbage time last week in BC.
How much do we
Um,
write into that, do you think? Because he did look good, I thought, but obviously it's garbage time. He still looked pretty good.
Yeah, and honestly, I'd say aside from VA, he's and Alexander has kind of emerged as one of the top backups this year. Schultz has been a solid CFL quarterback. Not much difference between him and Mayer. I had an underbet on Mayer at the beginning of the year, thinking that he might even lose the job to Schultz after a few games. So Schultz didn't play the Logan Bonner game just because he was injured. So that's not really an implication on his play, but. Yeah, he looked okay, and he's not much worse. Uh, I think it's a slight downgrade, but not really, just because he kind of hasn't been out there in a while. But he did bring Hamilton. I think did he not take Bo Levi's job last year? And in Montreal, I think he was kind of back and forth when Harris and VA were there too. So he's proven that he can handle it. It's not a huge downgrade. It's not a Logan Bonner that we're talking about. Calgary deserves to be a slight favorite based on those quarterbacks. Maybe a teaser leg if you can. I don't know. I don't even know if this is a teaser leg situation, because if you have Jarrett Dagey and Logan Bonner on the sidelines ready with their helmets on at any moment, that teaser could go up in dust. So I wouldn't trust either team to keep this game within 8 points if it gets to that. So I'm kind of staying away. I like where Calgary is. They should be a slight favorite. I guess basically just home field advantage. The worst home field advantage in the league, in my opinion.
There's a saying, losing was freedom. And when you lose all hope in a season, it's kind of like the pressure's off. You know what I mean? And the funny thing is you're playing for your livelihood and your jobs at this point. You're not playing for the playoffs. And something along the lines of that is kind of what makes me like this Stamps team. I've talked to you before about when I've gone against a team like the Ottawa Red Blacks so many times, and then they've screwed me over. And then the week that you stop betting against them, they start losing games. I'd be remiss to say that if you and I do not back the Stampeders this week, they're going to have the best week they've had in weeks after they screwed us last week. Even though they're not plus 7.5 this week, and they're being asked to win a game, it's one of those things where I just feel like there's going to be a lot of anger being taken out. And if we're being honest, the playmakers actually played pretty well last week. It was the quarterback that gave the game away, and I don't like to say that very often. I really don't, but I actually watched a large portion of that game. It was a pretty late night game where I live, as you know, and I wasn't out of the house. I watched it, and I regretted being awake for the game after after it all happened. But I don't know. Something tells me that Calgary's a bet on team in this instance. Just not sure with how many games we have across all sports this weekend if that's something that I want to put my money on. But kind of lean towards that team. But I feel like you'd have to create some crazy theories to make a bet on either of those teams. That's for sure. Keeping things rolling into the next one. I'm curious how you feel about this one, BC and Saskatchewan, because I talked about the difference in odds for the futures. So if we're going based on the futures or we're going based on the CFL power rankings they put out every week, this should be a max bet on the BC Lions. But do we really think it is? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think anybody could argue that BC was the better team last
Oh, I
week,
think you're
and they were
muted.
playing.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Maybe you're slow. I think that's what it is. I think you're on a bit
There we
of a
go. I can
delay.
hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Um,
Yep.
I don't think that BC was that good. I don't know if BC is that good right now. So um, I'm not too high on them. Saskatchewan, uh, they've kind of coached themselves into a close game. They were clearly the better team against Edmonton. Well, BC kind of coached themselves into a loss against Hamilton and almost losing against Calgary. So I kind of lean Saskatchewan here. They're still kind of banged up, but they're looking better this week. They got a few starters coming back on their O line, it looks like. So everything's kind of trending towards Saskatchewan. The only thing that worries me is this is kind of going along with the league power rankings. Saskatchewan's rated high, BC's rated low. That usually means bet the opposite. So I don't really have again, this is another one I don't really have a lot on. I think Saskatchewan's better than they are, and I think BC's not as good as the results have indicated. So, not that I'm a results guy. I'm not doing walking bets here saying, oh, Saskatchewan's won their last three. Look, I like them again tonight. Um, I just think Saskatchewan's the better team. And as far as that future, like that's the way to attack this. If you think Saskatchewan's going to win this game, then that means they're hosting the playoff game. That means they shouldn't be 11-1. So maybe we walked ourselves in these walking bets into a rider's future, that 11-1 that's still hanging out there. So anything above 8, 9, 10, 11-1, I'd kind of attack this game through that rather than the game itself.
Yeah, I just think that everything we need to know about this game is based on the futures, the future odds. Like looking at what the odds are on FanDuel for them to win this Riders team, and yet the price on this game is what it is. I think whenever a line seems weird to you, you got to jump after the weird line, and I think the Saskatchewan +1 or money line at home is the way to go. Kind of lean towards the under in this one, 51 being the total. BC's offense hasn't looked very elite, has it? I mean, they haven't really been lighting it up by any means. If we're gonna, again, we don't want to base too much off one game, but again, 14 points in like a matter of a minute and a half on turnovers, that adds to a total, right? If Saskatchewan can run the ball well, if BC continues to run the ball, you mentioned it, they're trying to run the ball a lot more as well to ease off things for Rourke. So wouldn't shock me to see this one be kind of a lower scoring game, but I'm with you. Lean towards the Riders, lean towards under 51. And this is one here, Thanksgiving. I think you and I are on the same page. Montreal and Ottawa. Are we back to fading this team? Are we back to betting against them?
Yeah, so this is, I guess it's 4.5, some fives now. This opened 4 at like the legitimate books, the books that will let you bet more than $7, more than $41. I couldn't believe it. I'm wondering, why is this so low? Montreal's clearly the best team in the East. You could argue that Ottawa might be the worst right now. Let's give Montreal some home field advantage. They've got a sellout coming up this weekend, so apparently this Thanksgiving game is a big deal in Montreal, and we're only going to be saying that they're 4.5 point favorites here. Uh, I'm trying to figure it out. Is Ottawa good?
I don't think so. And
Yeah,
they've only
I
gotten
guess it was a
worse.
rhetorical question
Yeah, I
there.
don't think so. They've only gotten worse, right?
Yeah, they're not getting healthier. They're going through a big injury slump right now. Last time we saw them, Masoli was in at QB. We don't even know if Drew Brown's coming back for this week. So um, I just don't know why this would be so low. Like you could look in Montreal. Is Cody Fajardo going to be rested? Well, he's not the kind of guy who wants to be rested. This is his MOP season apparently, so he wants to get out there. And even if it is Davis Alexander, which I don't really think is a possibility, they still should have a TD over Ottawa. So I like this up to like even if it goes up to 6.5, maybe even 7 if you want to play around a bit. But I love it at 4. I love it at 4.5, 5, still good. So I'm back to fading the Red Blacks. I think they've proven themselves to be unworthy, and I'm tired of seeing everybody else have fun while I'm half uniting myself on the sidelines.
Well, do we think that this number is what it is because of the success they had earlier in the year when you and I were losing betting against them? Because now
That's a
we can get
long
our
time
coins
ago.
back. Can we get our coins back now? This part in this, I feel like that's what it is. Honestly, they overachieved ATS wise. They might not have overachieved straight up, but they might have overachieved ATS, and now we can get our money back by betting against them in this instance. And again, Montreal does not want to go into the playoffs when they just kind of tiptoed in. They want to feel good about themselves, I really think. And 4.5. Yeah, the funny thing is, 4.5. The bookmakers will put that up there. You know, they're only going to get money one way. Doesn't that seem kind of weird? But I think that to me that there's going to be people in the public that do like Ottawa because of what Ottawa has done throughout the season. I don't
Who?
I don't buy into
Show
any of
me
that
show me
stuff.
that person when you see them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
There's no
But that's the
like
thing, Bobby.
Montreal's beat them down for a long time. But I remember at the beginning of the year, this was like 30-0 by halftime. So um, I don't think there's any confidence, or I don't think Ottawa deserves to be confident coming in here. So um, it'll
I'm
be the
telling
third
you,
time, fourth
I
time
know you're
they've
not a
fooled me all year, though.
I know you aren't an overs guy. I got a feeling that we're going to feel a lot more comfortable just betting the over in this game. I just have a feeling that we're going to feel way better not worrying about that spread and just worrying about points. Ottawa's not going to get shut out by any means, but I'm on the same page as you. But this Ottawa team has me scarred. I have PTSD from this Ottawa team throughout the season. Whenever I bet against them, they put up a 20 piece in the first half. And if they even put up, like, how many points do you think Ottawa needs to score for this game to go over, realistically?
What's it like? Probably 50, 51 or something.
48.5 is the total.
Oh, so if they get to 20, it's over, right? I would
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think it's the lowest total of the board of the week, I believe. And I think we could see both teams put some points on the board, so, especially Montreal. So, if they think the number is 4.5, I don't think that they think Ottawa's going to cover because of defense, right? If Ottawa has a snowball's chance in hell of covering, it's going to be because they put up 24 points, not because
Hmm.
they, you know, their defense played well, right? That's the thing.
Well, they can get me again. I'm okay. I've I've watched this team for the last 4 weeks. Saw them in person as they burned my money right in front of my face. So
Hey, we're on the
ever
same
since then,
page.
they've kind of fallen off, right?
Give me the over. Give me the Alouettes. Definitely the game that I have the most opinions on going into it. And I guess with that being said, I should probably just be on the Alouettes team total. That way I don't even have to worry about what they do. The unfortunate part is that not a lot of people can get down on those team totals, but it'll be a look that I'll be trying to make some money on. All right, that's on Monday. So you guys have all kinds of time to get that bet in before the game starts, and the numbers will move. I have noticed this is the time of year where the numbers do start to move again in the CFL. They haven't really been moving much, but we're here on Tuesday. If you guys make sure you get your bets in while you can, and try and lock in the winners before the numbers move in a different direction. I know you said you're comfortable at 6.5, but 4.5 is a hell of a lot better than -6 out there, guys. So make sure you get the best number possible. Make sure you're following Bobby on Twitter. Make sure you're following myself on Twitter. And lock in the Riders, guys, at 11-1. You might as well at this point going into the CFL playoffs. Any closing thoughts from you, Bobby?
Yeah, just on that, even if you don't think they're going to win, at least you'll have a hedge opportunity with the Bombers when they go to Winnipeg, or even in the Grey Cup. You'll be sitting with an 11-1, and you're probably going to be able to take the points on the other side if it's anyone other than Montreal. Even Montreal might be taking a couple points from. It'll be almost a home game for the Grey Cup if the Riders are in it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. If you're watching on Twitter, please do us a favor and retweet this. Let's make some money and go Owls and screw the Red Blacks.